Jésus, sois le centre, sois ma lumière, sois ma source, Jésus. Jésus, sois le centre, sois mon espoir, sois mon chant, Jésus. Sois le feu dans mon cœur, sois le vent dans ses voiles, sois la raison de ma vie, Jésus, Jésus. Jésus, sois ma vision, sois mon chemin, sois mon guide, Jésus. Sois le feu dans mon cœur, sois le vent dans ses voiles, sois la raison de ma vie, Jésus, Jésus. Sois le feu dans mon cœur, sois le vent dans ses voiles, sois la raison de ma vie, Jésus, Jésus. Sois le feu dans mon cœur, sois le vent dans ses voiles, sois la raison de ma vie, Jésus, Jésus. Un petit campé. Nous avons chanté ensemble, ou aimer monde qui sincère. Célébrons-nous, aujourd'hui, c'est Père Charles Patrick Key qui est avec nous, qui est missionnaire avec nous aujourd'hui. Merci. C'est chaque jour n'a pas les rouler, chercher la vie, chercher manger, souci ça yo qu'on fait oublier, mais nous quand même jodi si la qui réservé pour tout chrétien qui rassemblé, nous aimer nous vie nous bon Dieu plan qu'à nous. Pour aimer monde qui c'est ça, monde qui c'est vivre à tout cœur. Mais nous quand même
Petit lac, l'Esprit Saint. Avec Jésus-Christ, grand maître nous, l'amour bon Dieu, papa, ensemble avec l'Esprit Saint, toujours avec nous tous. Frères et sœurs, nous disons tout à nous chaque, bienvenue dans la célébration de la messe, 14e dimanche, temps simple. Nous disons bienvenue à Père Kinichal, qui est directeur diocésain propagation de la foi. Welcome to Father Kinichal. Moi, c'est Père Dominique Régis, je suis dans l'archidiocèse Port-au-Prince, je travaille dans la paroisse Sainte-Geneviève. C'est dans quel content nous rassembler pour nous capables de célébrer aujourd'hui. C'est fait dans toute l'Amérique, puisque aujourd'hui, c'est 4 juillet, c'est jour indépendance, c'est fête l'indépendance. Mais encore, c'est fait dans toute l'église là, dans que tout chrétien, puisque aujourd'hui, c'est jour dimanche, jour pas grand-maître là, jour qui est consacré pour nous faire louange et compliment pour grand-maître là. On nous prépare le cœur, on nous prépare l'esprit nous, pour nous capables d'accueillir toute grâce grand-maître là, les bancs nous, à travers la messe si là. C'est pour bon Dieu qui a tout pouvoir, qui a pitié pour nous. C'est pour lui pardonner péché nous. pour lui mener nous dans la vie qui ne peut jamais finir.
Amen.
Gloria.
Bon Dieu, ou même qui dressait ça qui tombait, grâce à Jean Petit, toi, t'es rabaissé tête li. T'en prie, bail fidèle yo qu'un content qui saint, pour si la yo vin délivrer en bas esclavage péché, ou fait aujourd'hui qu'un content tout temps. Pas pouvoir Jésus-Christ grand maître nous, petit tout. Li bon Dieu, li wali, commandez ensemble avec vous, ensemble avec l'Esprit Saint, depuis qu'on y a et pour tout temps.
Dans le livre prophète Ézéchiel, voilà, l'esprit entré dans moi. Jean yo te dit m'nan, et il fait me camper sous 2 pieds. Et moi tendé yon moun k'ap parler avec. Li dit, petit moun, moi voyez au bon Israélite yo, bon peuple rebelle, k'ap fait rebelle avec m'nan. Yo même ak papa yo campé contre moi, jouk la journée jodi ya. Petit yo même gen tête du. Et que yo c'est wash. C'est bon côté yo même, moi voyez yo pour dire yo. Mais ça, y avait grand-maître là déclaré. Quitte yo coûté, quitte yo pas coûté, m'connais yo c'est un peuple rebelle. Yo connaît gen un prophète dans mi-temps yo. Ou même petit moun pinga ou pe yo. Parole grand-maître là.
Les yeux levés vers le Seigneur, attendent sa pitié.
Nos yeux levés vers le Seigneur, attendent sa pitié.
Vers toi j'ai les yeux levés, vers toi qui es au ciel, comme les yeux de l'esclave vers la maison de son maître.
Nos yeux levés vers le Seigneur, attendent sa pitié.
Comme les yeux de la servante vers la main de sa maîtresse, nos yeux levés vers le Seigneur notre Dieu, attendent sa pitié. Nos yeux levés vers le Seigneur, pitié pour nous, Seigneur, pitié pour nous. Notre âme est rassasiée de mépris. C'en est trop, nous sommes rassasiés. Du rire des satisfaits, du mépris des orgueilleux.
Nos yeux levés vers le Seigneur,
Attends de sacrifier.
nos yeux levés vers le Seigneur, attends de sacrifier.
Dans deuxième lettre Paul écrit l'église Corinthe là. Frère mio, sœur mio. Grand-mère la fait moué et lui montrer m bagay si tellement extraordinaire. L'idée grandeur ta capable parim. Mais pour ça pas arriver, yo mette yon piquant dans comme. Yon messager Satan ka pram ak soufflette pour l'idée grandeur pas en parim. Peut-être ça, en 3 fois, moi prier grand-mère là pour louer école sous moi. Et grand-mère là répond moi. Faveur compte pour. Gardez non. Force moi fin en forme nette le gain faiblesse. Comme ça, moi pire aimer inventer tête moi pour tête faiblesse moi yo. Pour force Christ là, chita nan moins net. C'est peut-être ça. Moi content nan faiblesse moi yo. Nan prend jouré. Nan malheur ka privé myo. Nan persécution myo. Ak nan ke sauté myo. Peut-être Christ là. Réellement vrai, le moins faible, c'est le ça, moins gain force vrai. Parole, grand-mère là.
Merci, mon Dieu. Merci. Grand-mère là avec nous tous. Mais bonne nouvelle, Jésus-Christ d'après Marc. Voilà Jésus parti, li vin dans pays, partisan lui-même t'a suivre. Le jour repos arrivé, il commençait à prêcher dans la réunion. En pile moun qui t'a coûté te saisi. Yo t'a dit, côté le sorti ak bagay sa yo. Comment li fait connaît comme ça? Qui qualité classe miracle qu'a fait nan mel comme ça? A pas bo chapote nan ça, petite Marie, frère Jacques ak José, ak Jude ak Simon. Seul yo même, est-ce que yo pas ensemble avec ici là? Et yo te trouvé pas quoi nan li. Jésus même dit yo pas mépriser un prophète l'autre côté, passer dans pays, dans famille ak la caille. Et il pas capable de faire aucun miracle là, sauf pour 2-3 moun malades li te guéri. Nan mette main sou yo. Elle te saisi ouais Jean, yo pas gen la foi. Bonne nouvelle, Jésus-Christ.
Bonsoir. That's about all the French I know. But I say it anyway, right? So good afternoon to everybody. My name is Father Charles Patrick Keeney. I am a priest in this diocese of Brooklyn for more than 43 years. I was ordained in... thank you. I was ordained in St. Jerome's Church in Flatbush in 1978 on St. Patrick's Day. And for the first half of my priesthood, like most of the priests in this diocese, I served in different parishes. In the beginning as an assistant, and twice I was pastor. Once at St. Margaret Mary's over in Long Island City, and once at St. Leo's in Corona, Queens. But for the last half of my priesthood, the bishops have been assigning me to positions outside of regular parish life. For 6 years, I was a chaplain at a Catholic high school at St. John's Prep in Astoria, Queens. And after that, I was a chaplain at Long Island University in downtown Brooklyn at DeKalb and Flatbush Avenues. And during the evenings in both of those assignments on my own time, I worked as a chaplain on Rikers Island in our correctional facilities. But as you look at me and you listen to my voice, you're saying to yourself, I know this priest, he seems familiar, he's famous. You laugh, I'm famous, very famous. So for 2 years, I worked at St. Joseph's Co-Cathedral on Pacific Street. And all the masses from the cathedral are broadcast on live cable television on the net channel. So that's where you've seen me and you've heard me many times. So out of curiosity, how many have seen me say Mass on cable television? 3. I guess I'm not really that famous, right? Would have went to my head anyway, whatever, right? But anyway, for the last 2.5 years, I am the director of the propagation of the faith. And actually, I haven't really done that much work in the 2.5 years. As soon as I got the position, I broke my leg. And I was up on the couch for like 6 to 8 months before I could, get back to work and whatever, after a lot of rehab. And then, of course, COVID came. And my principal job as the director is to invite missionaries from all over the world to come to each and every one of our 179 parishes and make a presentation about their ministry, to teach us about it, to inspire us, and then to ask us to help them with it. But of course, last year, none of them came because of COVID, right? But this year, I have invited 42 different missionary groups. Some are priests, some are brothers, sisters, lay people, and even a couple bishops. And the plan is that they will come to each and every one of our parishes and make the presentation as we have done for years and years in the past. So interesting enough, this morning, Although I am the director of the propagation of the faith for our diocese, I do not come in that position. I come as the representative of one of the 42 groups. I am representing the community of sisters called the Congregation of St. Gemma Galgani, and they're religious sisters who live and work in the country of Tanzania in Africa. So you're looking at me and you're saying, Father, you don't look like you come from Africa, and you're not a nun. How is it that you're the director or the representative for a group of African nuns? And actually, that's the story I want to share with you this morning. How come I'm the director for this particular group, or the representative for this group? So back in the year 2006, I was working as the chaplain at Long Island University. And that particular summer, during the same time as my vacation was planned, the university had a course that was not on campus, but it was in Eastern Africa, where the students would visit sites in Ethiopia and Tanzania. And when I saw what they were proposing, I signed up actually to take the course and spend the time with the students and the professor in that particular part of the world. We were there a couple of weeks, and I really had a great time. I saw some beautiful sights in nature, and it was really something I always wanted to do, and I'm so glad I did it. But the last full day that we were there was a Sunday, and we were in a city called Arusha, and we went to a Catholic church named Epiphany, and we went to Mass there, a beautiful Mass, one of the best Masses I ever went to in my life. We went to the children's Mass that Sunday, and there was 1,600 little children at the Mass, and almost no adults. And boy, could they sing and pray and dance and worship God. It was magnificent. But anyway, after the Mass, Father Jack Redgman, who was the pastor, originally he was from Poland, he invited my entire group into the rectory to have a cup of coffee with him. And I always say to people, that cup of coffee changed my life. So we went in, and it was a very big table, and I sat at the bottom of the table, and the students on either side, and I left the main seat for Father Jack. And before he came in, I told the students, listen, this is a great way to wrap up your experience. Because if you have any observations or doubts or questions about something you saw or you heard or you didn't see, you can ask Father Jack, and he's a lot like you. He's a foreigner to this country, and he's well educated. So he'll understand what you're asking. He'll also understand why you're asking the question, and you'll understand his answer. So when Father Jack came in, the students began asking him all sorts of questions. We had a great conversation going on for about an hour and a half. And then one of the young fellows in my group asked Father Jack this question. He said, Father Jack, what is jail like in your city here in Arusha? And of course, the reason they were asking that was because for the last couple of weeks, in the evening, I would tell some of the stories of my experiences, including experiences on Rikers Island. So in any case, Father Jack looked at me from across the table and he said, Father Charlie, jail here is horrific. It's terrible. It's disgusting. It's uglier than anything you can imagine. So I thought to myself, I've seen pretty ugly and disgusting things at Rikers Island, to be honest. And I said, all right, Father Jack, tell me how horrific your jail is. Figuring that I could tell stories of Rikers Island and see who could one-up one another. He began to tell us how horrific the jail in Arusha was. He said, the first thing you have to understand, it was built for 400 inmates. At the time that we were speaking, there were more than 2,000 inmates in that jail. But there were only 400 single beds. So there were all sorts of games for beds, as you could imagine. There were only 400 single chairs. So most of the people didn't have a place to sit or lie down except the earth. And then he said, you have to understand that our system of justice is different from yours. Here in America, if a person is accused of a crime, they're considered innocent until proven guilty. That's why everybody in Rikers Island is considered innocent until proven guilty. In Tanzania, it's the opposite. Once you are accused, you are dirty. You are guilty. You are full of shame. Go to jail until you prove you're innocent, which is much more difficult to do. And then when you go to the jail, you wait to see the judge, but you wait a very long time. He said normally people wait in the jail on an accusation 5 years before you see the judge. In New York City, if you waited 5 days in Rikers Island before you got to see a judge, you could sue the city and get a couple $100,000 for keeping you in jail so long without seeing the judge, 5 days. But over there, the norm is 5 years. And if you're in that particular overcrowded jail 4 or 5 years, he says they don't really provide you with too much. There's no television, no radio, no magazines, no newspapers, no visits. There's no doctor, there's no nurse, there's no medicine. There's no exercise yard, there's no computer to use, there's no law library. There are a lot of no's. And interesting, every time Father Jack was saying, they don't have this, I'm saying, well, Rikers Island has that. Oh, yeah, they have that. Yeah. Take it for granted. Over there, they don't have that at all. So I'm looking, man, Father Jack, that's pretty tough. I said, what about the food? They got to feed them. Oh, of course. They feed the inmates once a day. Not 2 or 3 times like Rikers Island get the free meals. Over there, you get 1 meal a day. And ready for this? You get the same meal every day. You get a bowl of porridge like oatmeal. Every day. 5 years in a row. I looked at Father Jack. I said, Father Jack, you're right. Your jail is horrific. And then he said, now I'm going to tell you what's bad about it. I thought he already did that. He goes, no, that's just the preface. That's to get you warmed up. He said, what's really bad is this. If a woman has a small child, like an infant or a toddler, and she has to go to jail, she takes that child to jail with her. They're not guaranteed a bed for the 2 of them, and she's given no extra food for the child. She has to share her 1 bowl with that child. A woman could give birth in there, and the child would spend the first 5 years in that horrific place. So across the table, I said to Father Jack, you can't have little children like that in that horrific jail. And so he said, well, he started a little home with the help of some Native sisters, and right now they were caring for a few children with the permission of their moms who were jailed. I said, that's good. That's what the church should do. And then he said, well, actually, it's not the church, it's more like me. He says, and I'm getting ready to close this little home. And I asked him why. I said, why? They need that. I said, you can't close that. And he says, well, quite frankly, because I don't have any more money. He said, my family gave me the money that I used to buy the land where I built this little dormitory for the sisters and the kids they care for. And my friends in Poland gave me the money to build the dormitory that houses the sisters and the little children that they care for. But he says, nobody wants to help me with the daily expenses, with the food, the medicine, the electricity, transportation, clothing, whatever it is. And he says, I'm using my own money and I'm running out. So I'm planning to close this little home. In today's first reading, Ezekiel heard the call of God. I know how Ezekiel felt, because at that particular moment back in Arusha, I heard the call of God. He spoke clearly and directly to me. He said, Charles Patrick Keeney, what are you going to do about this? And in the silence of my heart, I said, nothing, I'm on vacation. And then a second time he said, whatever you do to the least of your brothers or sisters, that you do to me. And again, I complained, similar to Moses in the Old Testament, my ministry is in Brooklyn. These are Father Jack's little children to take care of. And then he asked me a third thing. And the question that he asked was the same question he asked St. Peter after the resurrection. He asked me, "Do you love me?" And I said, "Yes." So I wrote Father Jack's name and telephone number down on a piece of paper, and I put it in my wallet, and the Lord stopped talking to me for 1 week. Because the next day, we took an airplane ride home to the States, and about a week later, I could hear, when are you going to call? When are you going to do something? When are you going to talk to Father? When? So finally, I took out the paper, I called up Father Jack, and he answered it on the first ring. Now, I tell you that because I have called Africa many times in the last 15 years. That's the only time anybody picked it up on the first ring. Half the time, I can't even get through. But he picked it up. It was meant to be. So I said, "Father Jack, it's Charlie. We had coffee last week, right? Tell me a little bit more about your program, about the sisters, about the kids." So he told me his idea was to have like a little children's hotel. That's what he called it. He named it after St. Gabriel, not the archangel, but a Passionist saint, a young fella, because he wanted a young patron saint for this little children's hotel. And he said when Mommy went to jail, the child would check into the children's hotel, and when Mommy got out, the child would check out and go home with Mommy, and that was the plan. So he expected to have little children, like from infants right up to about 7 or 8 years of age, more or less. That was his plan. And then he told me about the sisters and the congregation of St. Gemma Galgani and the director. Her name then was Sister Flora, and she's still the director. She's doing a great job over there. And then I asked about the children. Now, I got a couple pictures of children. I took these pictures 2.5 years after this phone call. This picture here, and the picture over there with me with some of the children. You can look at it after Mass or at communion time and take a quick peek if you want to. You can ask me later on any questions. I'll be here after the Mass too. But he said at the time he had 5 children, 2 girls and 3 boys. The 2 girls, Teresia and Pascalina. And I said, you could be in Italy with names like that. And then 3 boys. David could be in Jerusalem. Tumaini. I said, oh, you're in Africa. And the 5th and final child's name was Patrick. Oh, Patrick. It was like somebody punched me in the heart. I introduced myself as Father Charles Patrick Keeney. I honestly don't know why my parents ever wrote the name Charles down on my birth certificate or on my baptism certificate, because they never used it. To them, I was always Patrick. To my brothers and sisters, I am still Patrick. And to my nephews and nieces, I'm either Uncle Patrick or Father Patrick. Everybody else in the world, I'm Charlie. But at home, Patrick. And I told you I became a priest on what day? St. Patrick's Day. Because we have a big devotion in my family to St. Patrick. So when I heard that the last child's name was Patrick, I told the Lord, I'll work for this particular organization as long as little Patrick is there. At the time, he was about 2, so I figured I would work for 5 years until Patrick's mother came and took him away. But in any case, what happened? I learned about it, and I turned to the students at LIU. We began having fundraisers and events, raising money. And when I sent Father Jack the first of quite a few checks over the last 15 years, I called him about 2 weeks later. And I said, did you get the check? And he said, yeah. He goes, first, thanks. He says, but I want to tell you 2 things about the check, he said. Number 1, I never expected to hear from you. He says, you never saw the place, you never met the sisters, you didn't play with the children. I have brought so many people over there, and they've seen the whole thing, and they promised me the moon, and I haven't heard anything from any of them. He said, I never expected to hear from you, but I did. And he said, the second thing, he said, the check was extremely timely. He said, and he described this to me, he said, I was eating lunch. And he says, I was eating lunch with my left hand, and I was writing notes with my right hand. I was writing notes to the sisters and to the little children and to their mothers, because he had decided that that particular afternoon he was going to have to take those little children back to jail, and he wanted to figure out what he's going to say to the sisters, to the little children, and to their mothers. And as he was doing that, the mail came, and he opened up the letter, and he didn't have to close the place. So, for the last 15 years, wherever I have been, whether it's been at LIU, whether it's been at St. Joseph's Co-Cathedral, whether it's been as a director and with my family and friends, I've asked a lot of people to help us help this particular project. And because of that, the scope of what we were able to do has increased phenomenally. Father Jack started this with 5 children. At the moment, they're caring for 28 children who otherwise would be in this horrific jail in that city. And at least another 50 children have checked in and checked out of the Little Children's Hotel. So he's touching a lot. And 15 years ago, we decided to start a school for them. And we decided by building first like a Head Start classroom, then a pre-K, and then a kid, one a year. And we finished the whole thing over the course of about 11 or 12 years. And today there's almost 600 students in that school, right? Because many people have cooperated and helped when they heard the story. So in any case, I'm here today to ask you to help me, help the sisters who care for these little children who otherwise would be in that horrific jail. So the second collection today at this Mass and at all the other Masses that we already had in this parish this weekend will be for the benefit of the Sisters of St. Gemma Galgani. And I know that the people of this parish have been, in history, have been very generous to the visiting missionaries, because I can see the records from past years. So I know that you really have that history in you, that you were really very kind and responsive and generous to the missionaries, and I ask you to continue that today and in the future. And before I end by telling you how grateful I am, I would like to tell you 2 things. Number one, at the end of the Mass, I am not going to process to the door. I'm going to stand here next to this picture in case anybody wants to come up and talk to me. I don't want to force anything. I want you to come to me if you want to. And if anybody is inspired enough to write a check and you'd like to make it sure that 100% of it goes to these sisters to care for these kids, I have these cards made up and I will hand it to you. And on one side it's got my address, and the other side it's got directions to make the check so that Sister Flora and her companions get the entire thing. So after Mass, I'll be over here with that. The second thing is an update on Patrick. If you listen very carefully, I should have given this up about 12 years ago. Right? 5 years after Patrick got there, his mother had her day in court, and she was found not guilty, free to go home. And the plan was that she would go to St. Gabriel's Little Children's Hotel and check Patrick out. But she didn't do that. She left him there. She probably thought that Patrick was better off with the sisters than with herself and the friends and people she hung out with. So she abandoned them. And now Father Jack's original program to help people from infants up to 7 or 8 suddenly was pushed in his lap in a very different manner. And now he has young people 17 and 18 years of age, including Patrick. Little Patrick is not so little no more. He's taller than me, right? He's still there. But you know, God does some great things. In the middle of suffering, in the middle of poverty, in the middle of so much negativity, for a little boy who spent some time in a horrific jail and then was transferred into an institution instead of a family, and then his mother abandoned him, you would think that this particular fella could be full of anger, could be full of negativity, could be full of so much stuff that would be destructive. But with the grace of God, Patrick today is in a very special high school. He's in a high school that's called a prep seminary, preparing himself to be a priest. Now, when I was a teenager, Patrick's age, I went to a prep seminary myself. I went to Cathedral Prep Seminary, which prepares young men in our diocese who have an interest in maybe becoming a priest. Patrick is in that instance. Now, when I was back in Cathedral Prep, there was a young fellow a year behind me. Some of you may know him. Anybody here know Michael Gribben? Yes. How many? He used to be the pastor here, right? Right? But he was a year behind me in the prep seminary, in college, and in the major seminary. Very fine fellow. But in any case, Patrick's still there. He's doing very well with the grace of God. And maybe 7 or 8, 9 years from now, he might stand on that side of the altar and offer the Mass for the other boys and girls who spent some time in St. Gabriel's Little Hotel, or Hotel for Little Children. So anyway, that's my story. So I want to come back and conclude by expressing gratitude in my name, in the name of the sisters, and even in the name of the little children. Because with your help and the help of others, we can continue to give them a much better quality of life. So, I just want to end by saying thank you very much, or in French, merci beaucoup. I could say 2 words in French, right? Or asante sana. And you're looking at me, what the heck does asante sana mean? Right? Asante sana means merci beaucoup, or thank you very much, in Swahili. Now, Swahili is the language that Sister Flora and Patrick would use when they talk to one another, their friends or the other sisters. So if you ever go to Eastern Africa, or if somebody from Eastern Africa comes by and they do you a favor, you know what to say. Say the same thing that I want to say to you. I want to say to you, thank you, merci beaucoup, but I say, asante sana, and may God bless you.
Frère Semio, nous finissons écouter parole grand-maître là, nous finissons méditer sur parole grand-maître là, qu'on a invité nous camper pour nous capables de proclamer la foi.
Pour l'église là, leader yo, ak tout peuple bon Dieu ya, pour nous gagner courage proclamer vérité l'évangile là, sans nous pas découper, et pour nous camper ferme contre tout ça qui a détruit création ak dignité moun, en nous la prière. Pour les deux nations yo, moun k'ap servi dans gouvernement, dans force police, pompier, pour yo ka wè travail yo comme yon vocation pour servir dans honnêteté, respect ak la paix, en nous la prière. Pour pays États-Unis, dans l'occasion fête indépendance li, pour citoyens yo pas jamais oublier sous qui principe ak valeur pays an te bâti, en nous la prière. Pour missionnaires yo, moun k'ap travail dans zone dangereux, moun k'ap prend soin pauvre yo, si la yo que société a rejeté. Pour aimer ak support nous toujours encourager yo, kembe ferme dans travail là, malgré tout problème, difficulté, déception, persécution y a rencontré, en nous la prière. Pour paroisse nous ak toute l'autre communauté chrétienne yo, pour nous camper comme signe présence Christ là dans le monde là, pour nous servir, aider l'autre, partager avec générosité, en nous la prière. Pour tout le monde qui est malade, qui est âgé, qui est handicapé, si la yo qui membre paroisse la, famille nou yo, zami nou yo, pour yo faire expérience Christ la dans faiblesse yo, en nous la prière. Pour tout le monde qui mourit, pour y entrer la caille grand-mère là et partager dans grand festin grand-mère là préparé pour petit Lio, en nous la prière.
Amen.
intention messe là pour Anne-Marie Roubès qui a célébré 86e anniversaire naissance li et pour reponome Stanley Civil et Martha Morissette en nous la prière.
En nous la prière toujours. Grand Maître, ou ses forces, ak refuge nous chaque, ak nous toutes. T'en prie, écoutez la prière peuple qui rassemble là, et fait-les content joindre tout ça qu'il a demandé. Par pouvoir Jésus-Christ, Grand Maître, nous. Grand-maître, cadeau ça, nous consacrer Baoua, fait le propre nous, fait nous entrer puis font chaque jour dans l'activité la vie ciel. Par pouvoir Jésus-Christ, grand-maître nous. Grand-maître avec nous tous. On nous lever car nous bien haut. On nous dit bon Dieu grand-maître nous en merci. Oui, vous méritez ça réellement vrai. C'est un devoir pour nous, c'est une délivrance pour nous. Grand-mère, papa qui c'est bon Dieu qui a tout pouvoir, ou même qu'il a depuis tout temps et pour tout temps. Vous méritez nous de merci tout temps et tout côté, pas pour roi. Jésus-Christ, grand-maître, nous. Pas pitié pour nous pauvres pécheurs. Li accepter Marie qui vierge enfantée, li souffrir sous croix pour le délivrer, à la mort tout temps. Li lever bien vivant parmi moi, pour le faire nos cadeaux, la vie qui va jamais finir. Bon Dieu, c'est pour ça, c'est peut-être pour voir par où. Nous comptons mettre ensemble avec tout message pour nous chanter sans arrêter. Et tout ça qui saint, c'est dans où l'y sorti. Tant pis, fait l'esprit mettre cadeau ça y pas pour. Comme ça c'est pour avantage nous. Il y a tout corps accent Jésus-Christ grand maître nous. Les Jésus accepté souffrir pour pouvoir volonté pas. Je trahi là. Li prend payant, li dit ou merci, li casse le bail partisan li dit yo. Manger là dans nous tout, réellement vrai, ça c'est comme ma balle pour nous. Même Jean tous les au fin manger. Li prend calice là, li tourne di ou merci. Li bay partisan li yo, li di yo. Prends, bois là dans nous toutes, réellement vrai, ça c'est sans moi. C'est sans l'autre contrat qui va là pour tout temps. C'est ça qui va le couler pour nous, et pour tout le monde, pour pardonner péché. Fais ça pour nous, songez moins. Ah, là, yon belle merveille, nous pas capable de comprendre li, mais nous quoi. C'est dans son Jésus est mort et puis il est levé, n'a offert au pain qui baille la vie à calice qui potait délivrance là. N'a dit merci parce que vous faites nous mériter paraître devant pour nous capables de servir. Tant pris grand-mère, fait l'Esprit Saint rassembler nous fait yon pour être corps accent Jésus-Christ n'a mangé. Grand-mère, songez l'église roi qui gagne sous terre, fait les filles honnêtes. Songez pape François, Monseigneur Nicolas, ensemble avec tout le monde qui est responsable, partisan ou yo. Songez tout frère nous qui mourit avec espoir ou va faire yo lever un jour. Songez tout l'autre monde qui mourit autour. Recevra yo la caillou dans la lumière là. T'en prie, fais-nous grâce. Fais si la yo qui recommande la messe sa grâce. Fais si la yo qui a célébré l'anniversaire de naissance grâce. Fais tout le monde qui compte sous pauvre la prière nous yo grâce. Fais nous mériter joindre la vie qui pas jamais fini ensemble avec Marie qui vierge et qui maman bon Dieu. Ensemble avec Saint Joseph monsieur marié lui. ensemble avec l'apôtre Jésus-Christ, ensemble avec tous les amis qui étaient marchés dans le chemin. Et vous avez vu super. Bon, ça n'a pas loin, Jacques Compliment, pas pouvoir. Jésus-Christ. Bon Dieu, Papa, nous-mêmes qui avons tout pouvoir et qui fait une avec l'Esprit Saint. C'est pas pour moi, Jésus-Christ, c'est avec lui, c'est en nous. Vous en doutez, témoins accomplis, depuis tout temps et pour tout temps.
saluer le drapeau pays côté n'a vivre là. God bless America. Land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, right before. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, what before. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet
En nous la prière toujours. Grand Maître, nous-mêmes qui plein à qualité cadeau ça yo. T'en prie, fais-nous recevoir faveur de délivrance là. Fais-nous pas jamais suspendre, faire louange. Pas pour roi Jésus-Christ, grand Maître nous.
Deuxième quête jodia, c'est pour campagne travail missionnaire nous fait chaque été. Nous remercions Pekini pour présence li dans mi-temps nous et pour encouragement li ba nous pour participer dans travail missionnaire l'église là. Tant prie bay ak tout que nous. Paroisse là a organisé un voyage de 8 à 12 août 2022 en Europe. Côté nous pourrons visiter plusieurs pays en Europe et participer dans le gros show La Passion du Christ. Dans un petit village en Allemagne qui relait Obermergau. Yo fait show ça chaque 10 ans. D'après une promesse, mon petit village ça a été fait. Si nous quittons chance l'an passé, nous là pour 10 ans encore. Si nous là. Moun qui est intéressé, tant pis, relais presbytère ou bien relais Gina Faustin dans 347 432 73 59 pour plus d'informations. Gen yon rabais pour moun qui gen tan inscrit et bay yon déposit $500 avant 8 septembre 2021. Vendredi 16 juillet, c'est fête mon camel. Nap gen messe dans paroisse là à 9h du matin en anglais et à 7h30 du soir bilingue. Ap gen yon messe diocésain ak Monseigneur Guy Sansarik dans l'église Mont-Camel, dans Brooklyn à 8h du soir. Dimanche 18 juillet, entre 10h30 et midi 30, dans l'auditorium, staff caretaker ap ensemble avec ministère la santé paroisse là, y a retourné pour yo bay deuxième dose vaccin Moderna pour moun qui te prend premier 3 semaines de ça. Si gen moun qui pas gen chance prend premier dose là à cause jour et l'heure yo t'a bay lian, staff là disponible pour ba nou premier dose là, tout nan même le ça. Moun qui prend premier dose là 10 juillet, ap gen pour yo retourner pour prendre deuxième dose là. Mes amis, on nous fait tout ça nous capables pour nous vacciner et pour nous aider à contrôler le virus ça pour ne pas détruire la vie monde. Dimanche 15 août, c'est fête Assomption. Nous pas gain pèlerinage Canada année ça encore. Mais n'a prêté célébrer dans paroisse nous. N'a commencé à Tridium jeudi 12 août, rivé samedi 12 août. Samedi 14 août. C'est Père Joseph Larose qui a tourné vient prêcher Tridium pour nous. Et puis, nous avons une messe solennelle le dimanche 15 août à 8h du matin, 10h du matin en anglais et à 12h30 en créole. Bureau presbytère fermé lundi ça pour fête indépendance 4 juillet. Et l'a fermé chaque lundi pendant saison été. Ou quand toujours relé, quittez un message et on a besoin de réponse dans mardi. Tant pis, visitez site paroisse nous sacredheartny.com ou by donation, demander service, li bulletin et connaître tout ça qui a passé dans la paroisse là. Je souhaite nous toutes bonne fête indépendance des États-Unis, bon dimanche et bonne semaine avec Jésus.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Avec permission Father Hilaire, je voulais annoncer nous à une messe, un mémorial messe pour sœur nous Evelina Malbranche, VV. Le samedi 10 juillet, ça veut dire samedi cap venir. Donc, yon parler l'autre. Est-ce que ouais? Parce que l'année passée nous pas capable à cause de corona. So, m'espérer nous tout à plat. Parce que c'est sœur nous, Evelina VV, nous pas qu'à oublier. Merci. À 10h, I'm sorry, à 10h du matin, samedi. OK?
C'est des gens qui ont célébré l'anniversaire naissance, qui est là, qui est présent, non? Mais sinon, nous avons campé pour nous capables de recevoir une bénédiction. Nous avons chanté pour lui. Nous avons chanté pour lui, pour eux.
Joyeux anniversaire, joyeux anniversaire, joyeux anniversaire, joyeux anniversaire. C'est pour bon Dieu béni, c'est pour bon Dieu béni, c'est pour bon Dieu béni, c'est pour bon Dieu béni.
Bonne fête, bonne fête. Happy birthday. You're welcome. Nous avons campé pour nous recevoir la bénédiction finale. Fait que vous content, maman Marie, ou même qui plein la grâce, grand-mère là avec vous. Li béni ou passer toute fille, maman, et li béni Jésus, petit tout fait. Grand-mère là avec nous toutes. Et avec nous toutes. Bon Dieu qui a tout pouvoir. Papa, avec petite là, avec l'Esprit Saint, bénis nous bien bénis. Amen. Allez à que poser. Bonne fête de l'indépendance, bon dimanche, bonne méditation à tout le monde.